Morning. How are we doing today? I hope you had a decent week. Um, Today's subject is really a little bit about conspiracy theories and how does that relate to our mental health. I was kind of inspired to speak on this topic by the recent events in America with, or I should say in the US, with the forest fires and so on. And I've seen quite a lot of very wild theories about why the fires took place and why they were quite so devastating, ranging from testing of some unknown weapon to land grab by the authorities to people hoarding water illegally, and that's why there was no water available to quench the fires and so on. Quite a lot of fairly extraordinary theories developed by various people, celebrities included, without a huge amount of proof to back this sort of stuff up. And it kind of made me think about how do we develop our own conspiracy theories in our own lives, about whether some people like us, don't like us, whether certain things happen because of some external, nefarious, hidden agency rather than because of maybe our own actions or other things. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about conspiracy theories and about how they kind of tend to affect us. There is a paper I'll actually put open access. I'll put in the comments if you want to read more about how they develop and so on and so forth. But I think the important bit is to remember is that just because it's a conspiracy theory doesn't necessarily mean it's untrue, like we have seen with Watergate in America. US. But the point is, in order for a conspiracy to become an actual theory or fact, we need proof, we need evidence, and I think a lot of the conspiracy theories that we have just don't have that. And I think the important bit also is and for us as mental health professionals, is to realize that the human psyche is built on the fact that big world events need, in our minds, big explanations. Wars don't just happen. They have deep-rooted causes. COVID didn't just happen. There has to be some agency, some evil agency, like an experiment gone wrong or anything like that, for that to happen. The forest fires couldn't just be climate change. That's just too easy. It has to be some sort of dark, hidden agency at force to have caused such a cataclysmic event. And I think this is part of our setup. So, we can't just figure, or we can't just understand the fact that sometimes very big world-changing events happen because of mistakes, happen because of random developments, or just this kind of coincidences, mistakes, errors. We can't grasp that fact. We need something more to explain the big events in our lives. That's why people talk about fate. That's what they talk about luck, coincidence, all sorts of other stuff like that. Because we need more than just life to happen. Why, did I have that accident? Well, it was meant to happen because, misfortunes don't always come in threes, or all sorts of other explanations that people have, all wives' tales, to explain why misfortune and problems occur in their lives. And this sort of forest fire thing is another example of that. We are constantly searching for big explanations as to why things happen, and we are never satisfied with possibly a simple one. The climate is changing. And also with conspiracy theories, never let the truth get in of a good story. Never let, or I should say, never let truth stop a good story. It's far more exciting to look for deeper meaning in things than to just basically say, well, this happened, or I made a mistake, or, from our point of view, which is very important in therapy, I'm responsible. I have a duty to, or I have a duty to myself too. It's much easier and much more exciting to look for hidden, mysterious external factors. And there's various books you can read on this, actually. It's quite interesting. To give you a very brief example of this kind of big things have to have deeper and more nefarious meanings, or beginnings, I should say. There was a study made by a Dutch researcher, and basically what he did is he produced two newspapers. They're both fake. They're both based in a Asian country, I think like Singapore or somewhere like that, where the Netherlands do not have historical links with, and therefore the Dutch population wouldn't necessarily know a lot about, because it wasn't part of their kind of history or culture. And those two newspapers covered the same story but from different angles. Basically, it covered the story that a local politician, by the way, all this is fictitious, none of this happened, and none of these people actually are even remotely related to real life. The point was that he was trying to make a prediction. So what these two newspapers did, one newspaper said that the leader of the opposition in that particular country had a car accident and survived, and he was all right. And the other newspaper said that the leader of the opposition had a car accident and died. And then asked two sets of responders to basically suggest, to suggest an explanation, or to see if they could figure out why this car accident happened. Now, interestingly, when the set of responders that looked at the newspaper saying that the leader of the opposition had a car crash and survived and he was fine, saw it as that, a car crash, and maybe supposed that the driver was not careful or something happened, but there was no huge conspiracy theory around it. It was a car crash and the guy was fine. Interestingly, again, the sample who read the version of the newspaper where the politician died were far more likely to suggest that it was a conspiracy by the current government to stop this opposition leader from gaining power, and that in fact he was murdered. So without any shred of evidence apart from this newspaper, which may or may not be painting the truth, or a version of the truth certainly, people started to suppose and to create all these theories about why this thing might happen. Because a death is obviously an important thing in a lot of people's lives, and it was a big event, and therefore it couldn't have just been an accident. Or for a lot of people, it couldn't have just been an accident. Of course, he was murdered. Of course, he was, he was silenced by the tyrannical government or whatever. And there was absolutely no evidence for any of this, partly because this didn't even happen. So I suppose this event is kind of this sort of research is interesting in proving how mind works, and our constant need to find patterns and to find really solid explanations, and if possible to find explanations for whatever's happening to us which do not include our own responsibility or our own actions, but they are part of a much deeper connected conspiracy theory which sometimes we create about our own lives. So part of the work I do with clients sometimes is to understand what are the narratives that we tell ourselves about the stuff that's happened to us, which are based in fact. And actually, this is maybe rule 101 when you deal with anxiety, because 99% of the anxiety is based on stuff that hasn't happened, and it's very unlikely to happen. And it's stuff that it's scenarios, it's conspiracies, if you like, that we create in our minds about future events, without potentially a shred of evidence to back any of this up. So I think it's worth pondering on and think about what sort of narratives are you creating in your life, and what conspiracy theories do you have in your life about events that have happened to you, or about the events that are going on around us. Now, as I said, just because it's a conspiracy doesn't necessarily mean it's fake, but where's the evidence? Ponder on that one. Have a good weekend.